Hey everybody, welcome to the JPA meeting. It hasn't started yet. They have actually a
Renee.
technical issue they're trying to straighten out. They don't have their videos not working. I suggest that they restart their Zoom because it may be a RAM issue, random access memory. I suggest that they restart their Zoom because it may be a RAM issue, Sorry about the echo there.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and Vice Chair.
Yes, good to see you. We did give Dan Culp your number, by the way.
I talked to him last night.
Yes.
Well, everybody has my number, including Zinni Abraham. I think he's somewhere. Zinni, you have my number too.
I see he's in the chat. Good morning.
Okay,
Good morning, everybody.
Let me see what Zinni's talking about.
Oh, he says he lost your number.
I'll give it to you again, Zinni.
Oops.
Good morning, Chair Miley.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Miley.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. Albert is here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
See, Councilmember Reed, I think, is trying to get in.
And Chris Iglesias is in the attendee queue and needs to be promoted to a panelist.
Is that where Councilmember Reed is too? She says she's having trouble getting in.
I don't see Councilmember Reed in the attendees.
Thanks, Councilmember Kaplan. It's Chris Iglesias. I'm on now.
Yes, we hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good to be with you in this form of being with.
Yes.
Which we now call being with. By the way, we are live, just so you know, and we have a bunch of people in the attendee queue, so welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome to this as well. They haven't started, so what I'm going to do though is out of fairness, I'm going to adjust this just so. There we go. And I'm going to get rid of this part. Let's see here. Make sure that it's shared with one more entity there. Say live. Sharing group.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members present.
So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, Renee, can you make me the host, please?
The agenda, folks, I have, and I'm going to do. There's just the
Director Roseman, you now have host capabilities, and Councilmember Reed has joined us and is in the attendees.
I just got it. All right, thank you very much. So we actually have 7 members. All right, so I will start the recording.
This is the new business, folks.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Welcome to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Authority Board meeting for April 15th, 2022. It is 8:33 a.m. Chair Miley, would you like to call the meeting to order?
Yes. I'd like to call the meeting to order if the clerk would want to take the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Hill?
Present.
Commissioner Hallberg,
Present.
Commissioner Iglesias,
Present.
Commissioner Reed,
Here.
thank you. Commissioner Vukasin,
Present.
Chair Miley,
Here.
and Vice Chair Kaplan.
Here, good morning.
Good morning. We have 7 members present, and Commissioner Thompson is excused.
Is there any special thing you have to say to people in terms of conducting the meeting virtually?
Yes. As we go through the open forum, if there's anyone in the public who would like to speak on items that are not on the agenda, you may raise your hand to speak during the open forum. Chair Miley, how many minutes would you allow for each speaker?
2 minutes.
Okay, each speaker would have 2 minutes to speak during open forum. At the time when we get to open forum, I will ask for attendees to raise their hands.
Okay, thank you. So I think our next item is item 3, new business.
Yes.
But we need, wait a minute, we need the resolution for the continuing remote meetings.
Yeah, I
Yes.
believe that's item 3, 3A under new business.
I don't know, is Council Vettel on the phone?
Yes, I am present.
Yeah, okay, I was under the impression we need to do that before we did anything else once.
It is the first item under new business, so that is appropriate.
All right, thanks.
Item number 3, new business. Resolution adopting findings regarding social distancing and public health arising from COVID-19 pandemic, which warrant the continuation of remote teleconferenced public meetings by the authority under the Brown Act.
Is there a motion on this?
I'm
So
Halbert, happy to move or second.
Second.
I think it was moved by Halbert and second by Iglesias, I believe.
Yes, that is what I recognized.
Okay. Do we have any speakers on this item?
At the moment, I do not see anyone with their hand raised in the attendee queue for this.
Okay. Under this item 2, I just want to mention that I know the Board of Supervisors, we are going to be looking at moving towards hybrid meetings starting, I think, sometime this month. So just an FYI for this body to know.
Mr. Chair, I have that item in my executive director's report as item number 4.
Okay. Oh, great. I see that now. Okay. All righty. If there's no speakers from the public, and we have the motion, clerk, want to take the roll?
Chair Miley, I see.
Yeah, there's a hand raised.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Abraham, you have been allowed to speak.
Thank you for unmuting me. Good morning and happy Easter, everyone. Zenny Abraham, Zenny 62 Media. Just a note that the advantage of having a meeting both in public and virtual is that you actually are able to communicate better or allow others to communicate better through social media. What happens when you have it in person, you really take that away by a factor of, by my estimation, 40. And so if you really want to communicate what's happening and continue a view of openness, my recommendation is that you continue these type of meetings regardless of the COVID situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham.
If there's no other speakers on this item, the motion is before us.
I do not see any other speakers, so I will take the roll vote. Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Iglesias,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Vacason.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kaplan,
Aye.
Chair Miley.
Aye.
The motion passes with seven ayes, 0 nays.
The
The
next
next,
item is open forum.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, for anyone wishing to speak on open forum, please raise your hand. Each speaker would have 2 minutes. Presently, I see one speaker with their hand raised, Mr. Abraham.
Thank you very much. I believe I'm.
Mr. Abraham, you're
Thank you
unmuted.
Thank you very much. I'm here to inform everybody and hopefully encourage action at some point regarding the fact that the Oakland Alameda County Joint Powers Authority is capable of establishing by law its own enhanced infrastructure financing district. And so, as I've written I sent out an email on my other blog, Oakland News Now Online .com, where it's the front story, front post. The advantage of this is that the authority would be able to, from my perspective in history, carry out its own development directions and also marshal funding for the projects that are being planned in negotiations with the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, who, by the way, have no idea that I'm doing this. This is just simply all an idea that I came up with last night and said, hey, this is something that the authority I think should consider. For me, I go back to 1996 when my then boss, Elihu Harris, dispatched me over to the Coliseum when Bob Quintella was the president, and Bob showed a map of a 5 to 10 year plan. And under the current way we do the authority, that's not done. We can actually return to that kind of more comprehensive planning focus and control of development resources and monies that we can direct toward a future design for the Coliseum. The legislation doesn't require that we go to the city council or the county supervisors. I'm not advocating that at all, of course, but I'm simply communicating the autonomy of the joint powers authorities in California to do this sort of thing, and advocating that since there's already a development focus of the Coliseum and has been for some time, that we establish a boundary between 66th Avenue, 98th, the San Leandro Channel, and San Leandro Boulevard, which would include a number of businesses and then a lot of unsecured property to give us a multi-billion-dollar power to finance development and also rebuild our sports future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. At present, I do not see any additional hands raised in the attendee queue.
Okay, thank you. So we can go to the next item.
The next item is the approval of minutes from the February 18th Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Board meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Halbert will second.
Okay, moved by Kaplan, second by Halbert. Is there no discussion on the minutes? Are there any speakers on the minutes?
At present, there are no hands raised in the attendee queue for this item.
Okay.
No, sir, I'm sorry. There is a hand raised now.
Okay.
Mr. Abraham has his hand raised.
I apologize. There was another matter that was burning with me, and for reasons of health and scheduling, I've unfortunately missed some meetings, but I am concerned about how the Raider debt is being thought of and considered. I think Councilmember Kaplan wanted to discuss how it could be recollected. I simply want to add that if memory serves me well, and generally it has, on the 17th of January of 1996, Lewis Cohen, and I forgot Bowery's last name, who worked and represented then Councilmember Larry Reed, met with Ezra Rapport to discuss the Raider deal because, as he told us in that meeting, know the deal cold because nobody else cares. And one of the major question that came up was, what is a non-recourse loan in this context? And Ezra specifically said that the idea was for the loan to be, quote, repaid, unquote, simply by the Raiders playing games at the Coliseum. That was the idea. So it's not something that you can recover in the normal sense. And as one of the, a few remaining people, unfortunately, a lot of people have left who were around from that time, I felt, it's my duty to chime in and explain what I experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham.
There are no other speakers on this item. The motion is before us.
There are no other speakers. So for item approval of the minutes, with the first by Kaplan and the second by Commissioner Halbert. Commissioner Hill, how do you vote?
Approved.
Commissioner Halbert?
Aye.
Commissioner Iglesias?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Vacason?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kaplan?
Aye.
And Chair Miley?
Aye.
There are 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passes.
Okay, now we're down to item 6, reports.
Item 6, reports of the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item I have on the report addresses the issue of Oakland's emergency vaccination ordinance. We reported to you at the February meeting that Oakland has adopted this emergency ordinance, and it went into effect on February 1st. One of the challenges that we had with the ordinance was that many of the patrons purchased their tickets well in advance. And because Oakland raised the standards for admission to these kinds of events, we were concerned that we would have many requests for refunds and a lot of confusion about that. Fortunately, due to the good work of Nicole Strange and her staff, we were able to navigate all of that and did not have the challenges that we had anticipated we might have. The other part of the ordinance is the vaccination requirement. And Oakland adopted its ordinance at the time that most of the counties and the state were beginning to relax the standards. And so now what we have is the state of California, and to my knowledge, all 58 of the counties have different standards, lesser standards than Oakland's emergency ordinance. And in particular, the Oakland ordinance says that in order to be permitted to attend events that we have, the person must be vaccinated. The prior standard was vaccinated or a negative test within 72 hours. So now we have the Oakland ordinance, which is out of sync with the state and all 58 of the counties, incidentally, including Alameda County. What has happened now, because the state has relaxed the standards and all of the counties, we are at a competitive disadvantage with other venues in our market area, particularly Chase Center, San Jose, Sacramento. And both promoters and some artists have raised this question of why Oakland has gone in the opposite direction of others with respect to mandated vaccinations. We had an ad hoc meeting last week of our 2 supervisors on our board and 2 council members on our board to talk about this issue. The consensus was that we approach the city of Oakland and request one of 2 things. One is that they lift the ordinance or that they suspend the ordinance. And subsequent to that time, I've had a conversation with the sponsor of Oakland's emergency ordinance, Councilmember Dan Cobb, and he is open to considering modifying the ordinance. So that's where we are right now. And so the item is before you for any further discussion or direction of the executive director.
I see Vice Chair Kaplan with her hand raised.
All righty.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Gardner covered much of what needs to be said about this. I would just add that I have also spoken with Councilmember Dan Kalb, the author, and he confirmed that he is actively working on modifications and that he expects that those would come to the council meeting of May 3rd. So I did want to share that with all of you. And he did commit to speaking with Mr. Gardner, which I'm glad to hear that that is transpiring. And then I also just wanted to share colleagues and the public some suggestions. One is just to be aware that there is a new COVID surge that is growing, that has already hit very hard in China and much of Europe, and is now hitting very hard in Canada and parts of the East Coast of the United States. And there is, of course, much less testing going on, so there's much less data to track it. The city of Philadelphia has just instituted a mask mandate, and multiple school districts that had previously removed their mask mandates are now reinstating them. So that's, I thought, something useful for people to know. And then just a request and suggestion for our own facility, since we are a public facility welcoming a lot of people and thus we can do a lot of good, is I'd like us to pursue the option of us getting quality masks in bulk, which would then, of course, allow us to buy them at a much lower price than individuals buying them in smaller numbers, so that we could make the masks available at our site. And I also think it might be worth pursuing allowing a smaller on-site vaccination facility, not the large thing that took up most of the space that we had before, that was a huge success and very important when we needed to vaccinate hundreds of thousands of people at once. But now we're in a situation where every day many new people hit the date where they need their booster. So a much smaller, maybe a tent on the landing plaza where people on their way in and out would be able to get that booster or that vaccination as part of a public facility, not as a requirement, but as a way to encourage it. And so those are my thoughts and suggestions. And thank you for the conversation.
I see Commissioner Iglesias, with his hand raised.
All righty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree. I think we should find a way to lift or suspend the ordinance. I think the Coliseum sits right in East Oakland, the land of the essential workers. And we have to find a way to open this up to, so we can compete against the other venues. And I think Councilmember Kaplan said, I think, there are ways that we could still be on the leading edge, and where whether we have Roots or La Clinica or Native American Health having a booth or whatever there at the Coliseum for folks to be able to utilize. I think that would be a great opportunity to highlight some of our local partners who have been fighting in this pandemic for the past couple of years. And I think there are we continue to still buy masks for folks, but there are ways to do it in a way that highlights a lot of the folks that have been in this fight for the past couple of years and still keep the public safe. So whatever we could do to fully open up, I think would be great. Thank you.
Any other commissioners on this item?
Supervisor Miley, or Commissioner Miley, or President Miley, I'm not sure what hat you have on right now, Leader Miley. I would weigh in and say that I'm also very interested in hearing options for opening up or reopening in a way that makes us competitive, and being mindful of the need to move back if we have to, but be more in line with what others are doing by relaxing some of the things that we have in place. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the public has to say, perhaps if anyone wants to weigh in, but I'm fully supportive. And I would indicate support for the other items mentioned. Anything we can do to keep safe, promote vaccination, let those that want to wear a mask wear the highest quality mask that we can provide. All good things. Thank you.
I would just weigh in to add to all that's been shared. This issue continued to rise at the beginning of March as San Francisco was about to lift their mandate, with a number of businesses reaching out to our offices and initiating conversation at that time, early March, with Councilmember Cobb on ways that we could consider adjusting. And so it has been good to hear how we're progressing with the city and with some of the suggestions that have been brought before the city attorney for us to consider. I certainly would also like to hear from the public. We know that even as we are considering these adjustments, that communities of color, particularly Black and Latino communities, are 20% or so, I believe, below the county's vaccination. And so ways that we can continue to ensure that we are educating and providing outreach and opportunities for those in our community, particularly in East Oakland, where our site is located, have that access and the ability to be vaccinated or to be encouraged through our efforts to have that available for them as we make these adjustments is important. And certainly supporting us having improved masks for those who are attending and enjoying our venue. Thank you.
Right, if there's no other commissioners on this, so we'll take this item. I think it's 6A1. So if we have any speakers from the public on 6A1.
Yes, we have one member of the public with their hand raised, Mr. Avery.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. This, I think, is where a good sports commission would be of an advantage, because it could point out event producers that also want mask and vaccine protections. My company is going on my 18th year being credentialed for the NFL draft, this time in Las Vegas. I have to have proof of vaccination. The NFL has no intention of relaxing that, and they're not the only one. So I think that if I were the organization, I would ask Ms. Strange or someone to produce a list of event producers that still want to maintain this policy regardless of what the public says, because, yeah, we have now 2 new variants that are active around the world, and who knows what's next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Avery.
Any other speakers on this item?
Do not see any other speakers with their hands raised.
Okay, so Mr. Gardner, so based on the comments you heard from the commissioners, do you have any response?
I think that the 2 city council member representatives and Councilmember Cobb now are well aware of our concern. And as Vice Chair and Vice Mayor Kaplan said, the council plans to take this item up, it sounds like, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. At your direction, I will continue to communicate with the city council on this item and express the board's consensus that the council consider either lifting the ordinance or suspending it. The advantage of suspending it is that the city and the community remain nimble if in fact we have a huge surge and need to take some immediate action. I would also stress, though, that I think it's really important for us, to the maximum extent possible, to be consistent with Alameda County and the state to the extent that we can. And our practice has been, when there are mandates that are slightly different between the state and the county, our practice has been to adopt the highest standard. And we will continue to promote the wearing of masks, That's very difficult to enforce, as you can imagine. Ms. Strange has indicated to us that in some instances, not all, where we have offered masks to people who show up without one, they put them on until they get past the gate of the entrance and they throw them on the ground. So there are limits to what we can do. But I would say that I think that the overwhelming majority of people do respect the importance of wearing the mask and keeping the masks on. And we'll continue to promote that, whether it's a mandate or not.
All right, thanks, Mr. Gardner. And I would suggest that we have a follow-up report on this at our next meeting as well.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. All right. And I pretty much are in alignment with what you commented, what you said. Okay, let's go to your next item, 6A2.
East Bay mud sewer failure. That happened about 2 months ago. There are two sewer lines running across the property. One of them is the city of Oakland, and the other is East Bay Muds. And at the time that the pipe failed, there was some question about whose pipe had failed. And it turns out that it was East Bay Muds pipe that had failed, not the city of Oakland. They have been at work for the last 2 months to make the necessary repairs. And I think as we speak, they may be either finished or very close to being finished. They did indicate a week ago that they need to bring in some additional equipment for their final repairs. Following this, we will be doing an inspection to make sure that if there's any damage to the Coliseum property, that is addressed and corrected. So that's the status of the sewer pipe failure. It is now operating and operating properly.
Any questions or comments on this item?
I do not see anyone with their hands raised.
I will save number 3 for last and go to hybrid meetings.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you and others had raised the question of the feasibility of hybrid meetings for this board and asked that we do a survey of jurisdictions in the area. We did a survey of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, ABAG, the Association of Area Governments, East Bay Regional Park District, and East Bay Mud. I did not have a response from East Bay Mud at the time that I put the report together, but I've since gotten that. All 4 of these agencies do have hybrid models for their meetings. In at least one of the cases, the board is meeting in person, but the public is participating only by Zoom. In the others, some board meeting members are attending in person and some are attending by Zoom. And they declare a forum by adding, of course, and it makes sense, the 2 together. So if they have 3 members participating by Zoom and 4 participating in person, they declare that they have the quorum because they add the 2 together. And that, I think that's entirely consistent with the Brown Act. The challenge that we see for us is, unlike these other jurisdictions who have more than one staff person to put all this stuff together, we basically have Renee. And so what would happen if we have the hybrid model where some board members are attending in person, and especially if there is only one, we would have to do our setup out at the Coliseum in the board room meeting for that 1 or 2 board members who might be attending in person and also running the Zoom. We will accommodate whatever the board desires. I will say this. I think it is important for us to have a meeting in person at some time where all of the board members are present, because we have 2 new board members who've not met the other board members face to face, and likewise with staff. So as you consider this, I think we need to figure out a time when we will say that we're going to have at least one of these board meetings in person and encourage everybody to be present while we continue to figure out how we would do a hybrid given the limited staff and if we only have 1 or 2 people attending in person.
Any commissioners have any comments on this item?
I do not see anyone with their hand raised.
Well, let me comment. I think if it's a challenge to hold a hybrid meeting because we only have Renee, then maybe we'll just continue to do remote meetings. We under any circumstance, if we have a remote and or hybrid would be both in person and remote, we would still need to pass the resolution that would allow for remote meetings as long as the public health emergency order is in place. I think it's important that we pass that resolution, which would allow for us to do virtual meetings. And if the virtual meeting is hybrid as well, we would need to have that resolution passed. So I think for practical reasons, it would be difficult for us to do a hybrid meeting. Then I would suggest that we just continue to do virtual until we get to a place where either we can accommodate a hybrid type meeting or we go back to just total in-person meetings. That's my thought at the moment. And also, I think Commissioner Halbert, I don't think he's been to an in-person meeting yet either.
I would recommend that the board consider for one of your future meetings that we urge the commissioners to try to be present in person so that sometime in the near future, we have at least one in-person meeting for the reason that I stated, that actually we have 3 commissioners who have not met the others face to face. So that's something I would offer that we consider that at one of our future meetings, and we plan that well in advance and say at that meeting, we really, really, really need you to be in person.
And would that in-person meeting also be virtual?
Yes.
For the
yes.
public?
For that one, yes, we would work that out.
I see, okay. So any other commissioners have any comments at the moment before we see if there's any comments from the public on this item? This is item 6A4.
Commissioner Halbert has his hand raised.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, no, thank you. I do look forward to the time when we can be in the room together at the same time. And I hope that we could do that for all meetings in the future, at least have us have the option to come in. And I agree with Mr. Gardner that it would be great if indeed we all did. However, as was pointed out, the public is going to have the expectation to be able to call in and be virtual for them. And I agree that that's a good thing to maintain. And so we just, I think, have to find a way to maintain the ability for remote participation, at least for the public. I think indeed also for commissioners, but that we would have the ability to come in and that we would come in as often as possible would be my hope, to be in person, but also to allow the public the ability to participate remotely. And if the public can participate remotely, then it would appear that that a commissioner could, if needed, because I think we're at the point in our world where remote participation is with us for the future. So anyway, that's my thinking. I can't wait to get in person with everyone. It's going to be great. Thank you.
We have Commissioner Bukaisen with his hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to say I fully support the hybrid meeting. I'm excited to actually meet a few of you, and I would prefer to meet live, but I do think the hybrid is a very good model. Thank you.
And we have Vice Chair Kaplan with her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I think that this is a useful conversation. I agree with the chair that until we have it figured out, we should continue to do what we've been doing, which we seem to be succeeding at. So I would just note that that is working. And then I just wanted to share one other thing, which is that the Alameda County Transportation Commission, on which several of us sit, is in the process of working out how to have truly effective hybrid meetings, including by putting in new technology into the boardroom so that there can be individualized cameras and screens, so that then in the future there would be the ability to have meetings where some people are in person and some people are remote, and everybody can see all of what they need to see. And if and when the Alameda County Transportation Commission does have that figured out and wired up, I wonder if we might have the option to ask to borrow that boardroom if needed, to make it easier for this body to do it. And I of course, I've met you all in different contexts, and happy to meet in person if and when we can, but appreciate that, no matter what, we want to continue to preserve the option for people to come in remotely, and that for many members of the public, it has actually increased their access to be able to do that. Thank you.
Any other commissioners or any public speakers on this item?
Yes, there is one public speaker with their hand raised, Mr. Abraham.
Yeah, I want to thank particular Commissioner Hopper, and this is any 62 Media, for recognizing the impact that technology has had on our culture, such that hybrid meeting setup, for want of a better term, is something that should be done from here on out. It has, and as you all know, been done because of the pandemic, but the impact on what we do can't be ignored. And so I was a little concerned that the conversation seemed to cant toward the idea that we are able to turn back the clock or go back. But I'm simply saying that that's not the case. And I want to thank the commissioner for recognizing that. He basically took away what I was going to say, which is great. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. There are no other speakers with their hands raised.
All right, thanks. So, Mr. Gardner, any response?
No, I think all has been said. I would simply comment that my observation for all meetings is that when you're able to meet in person, that is an advantage of meeting remotely for a variety of reasons, and many have commented on that. We are where we are for obvious reasons. We are fortunate to have the technology to have these meetings remotely, and someone said it, and I can't remember who, by having the public participate remotely has really increased in other places, and in our case too, more participation from the public, because it's easier for them to participate remotely as opposed to driving to the place and making their comments. So we're committed to doing whatever works. I just wanted to point out that what the challenge would be if we only had one person show up in the boardroom, and Renee's trying to run both that and do the Zoom meeting as well. So we'll do whatever the board decides. I do want to stress, though, that we're going to survey the commissioners and find a board meeting date where everybody says yes, they're going to make that meeting, so we can have that one in person.
All right, thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, the Board of Supervisors will be taking up the issue of hybrid meeting. I believe it'll be on our agenda this coming Tuesday, because we recognize the importance of continuing to be virtual, but also having the option of people being able to come in person to meetings, and still those that want to participate virtually, either supervisors and or the public, they would still have that option. So we'll be taking this issue up at our meeting this coming Tuesday. And I think what the supervisors are looking at is the fact that because the world is opening up people are back to work, events are taking place, people are going about their lives. Even though the variant of the virus is still here and we have variants, the fact that life is moving forward, we need to take action to begin to allow the public to start having the ability to come to our meetings. And so we'll be taking that up this Tuesday. But we do recognize the benefit of continuing to have the ability for people to participate remotely. So just an FYI. All right, so Mr. Gardner, I think you skipped item 6A3.
That was deliberate because I wanted to save the best for last. If you look at that report, you will see that it's the shortest comment on the items. And it never occurred to me that that would be the subject that the press would latch on to. I spent most of Tuesday, Wednesday, I guess it was, talking to no less than 9 reporters about the cats. And so I want to make it clear for the record that we need to celebrate and honor these cats. Because while they have created somewhat of a nuisance for us, they have done a superior job of getting rid of all other rodents. Nicole said she hadn't seen a rodent in 2 years. So our feral cats have been working very hard and have been very successful. They have multiplied, though, in numbers. And so now we need to devise a plan that we can at least control the population. And we have been working with the City of Oakland's Animal Control Department. In fact, I think we have a meeting this afternoon to talk further about what strategies we might employ. I had put out the idea of maybe an adoption program and have since learned that that probably would only be successful for the kittens. The adults are already, they've already developed their skills and they're not likely to be successfully adopted. So we're looking at a variety of strategies, but one of them is, and the A's have offered that they would help if we had an adoption program, particularly for the kittens. So that's one of the things that we will be doing. We've also been advised by the city that one of the things we can do, and I say it in the report, is to make sure that our dumpsters are secure. And we can do a better job of that. But the reality is that when we have events and people bring whatever they didn't finish eating and dump it on the ground, it's not just the dumpsters. So anyway, we think we will get this under control. We can live with the cats. They do good work, but we need to deactivate some of them. We don't need quite as many as we've got on duty right now. Early in the morning, we find them sometimes sitting in the go-karts, in the driver's seat, like they're ready to go on rodent patrol. But anyway, I put that in there just in case you heard anything from any patrons about feral cats running around. But it never occurred to me that the press would latch on to that, and that became the story. In fact, I was told there was a story this morning still about the cats. But it's a good news story, so happy about that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gardner, for that report. Yeah, I just want to state that I was quite surprised myself. 10 years on the Oakland City Council, 20 plus years as a county supervisor, so more than 30 years in government. And I was quite surprised when the press started contacting my office for me to give them comments on feral cats out at the Coliseum. Clearly, I didn't have the time to be speaking to that matter, so I'm glad that you took on that assignment and did it extremely well.
I created the problem.
So let's see if there's other comments from commissioners.
Vice Chair Kaplan has her hand raised.
Okay.
Yes, well, certainly glad that it's cut down on the rats. And as it's almost Passover, I hope we won't get into a spiral of then we bring in dogs to chase the cats, and then we bring in lions to chase the dogs, and we could have entire chains, perhaps ending with a goat. But I did want to say that I did talk to Oakland Animal Services, and they recommend that for the older cats that the goal should be to spay and neuter as many of them as possible. And that also, as I see we have a fair number of the press on the line with us today, the Oakland Animal Services also said it's really important to remind the public to spay and neuter their pets. So for the media watching and for members of the public watching, please make sure to spay and neuter their pets, and to remind people not to adopt pets that they don't then care for and maintain, as there may be some number of abandoned pets that has transpired in recent year. But they recommended looking at spaying and neutering as many as possible in our facility, as well as the catching and adopting of the kittens, and urging the public to spay and neuter their pets, in addition to the sharing of doing what we can to seal the garbage to prevent attracting them. And thank you for this, and your break from talking about sickness and disease to talking about cats. So thank you.
Other comments from commissioners? Do we have any comments from the public?
Yeah, Zenny Abraham of Zenny 62 Media. I just want to note that I'm proud to report that the Black-owned media in Oakland News Now, owned by Zenny 62 Media, and the Oakland Post did not focus on a story regarding feral cats as a top story regarding the Coliseum, when the Coliseum has a loss of roughly $200 million due to a change in fund balance, among other problems. It's also a good idea to say to the public how they should treat the matter of spotting these cats at games. Are they allowed to take them out or what? I mean, it's one thing to focus on this in a humorous way because 8 to 10 media organizations that are white owned are focused on. I'm being blunt, but the reality is that you created a situation of focus on those cats that could create an untenable problem that you didn't anticipate. So I think that needs to be handled. And I just want to speak that and remind you that, there's a different kind of press too, that you spend a lot of time ignoring. Okay. Thank you.
We have another speaker with their hand raised, with the last name of Lucas Conwell. Speaker, you're unmuted and allowed to speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Colette Lucas Conwell with the Oakland Days. We just wanted to say that we're happy to support the JPA and Henry Gardner in whichever ways needed. Like Zenny said, if there's any communication that we can share during games, please let us know. We're happy to do that. As long as the cats are adoptable, we're happy to work with the JPA, any local nonprofits to host some kind of, Coliseum kittens adoption drive. So just keep us in the loop. I know that David Brunetti, our stadium operations vice president, will be at the meeting at 3 p.m. today. So I think Henry, he'll be there. Just send him any information his way. Thanks.
Thank you, Speaker.
Any other speakers?
There are no other speakers with their hand raised.
So, Mr. Gardner, any response? And I guess there's a follow-up meeting today on this?
Yes, there will be several follow-up meetings. As I said, the feral cats have been contributors. Need to be real clear about that. And so the approach as to how to manage them in a humane way so that they're not being disruptive. That's the story.
Okay, so I'm assuming that if there's more to this matter, you'll report back to us at our next JPA meeting?
Sure, indeed.
Okay, yes.
Commissioner Reed has her hand raised.
Sure, yes.
Yes, I just wanted to share, we did hear from Director Dunn just regarding and perhaps we can have the clarity on this, Mr. Gardner, regarding adoption. She had indicated that the cats were not socialized to people, so it could become a concern or an issue to place them up for adoption. And so I think we might need to get some more insight on that path that's being considered.
I think there's general consensus that feral cats generally are not subjects for adoption. It really would be the kittens. And Vice Chair Kaplan addressed the other part that I had left out, that the spaying and neutering are an important part of the strategy of controlling the population. But probably only the kittens really would be eligible for adoption.
Thank you so much for clarifying.
Anybody else?
There are no other hands raised.
All right. So like I said, I believe there's more to be considered relative to this issue of the feral cats. Mr. Gardner will report back to us at our next JPA meeting on this. Yeah, sorry if we made light of it, because I do recognize that it is an issue for both the team and then for folks who feel concerned about the welfare of animals. Okay, so if Mr. Gardner, are you finished with your report? Are we ready for 6B?
No, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, 6B, Nicole.
Ms. Strange, I see that you're unmuted, however, we cannot hear you. Ms. Strange, we still cannot hear you if you're speaking to us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you now. Thank you.
Perfect. Wanted to give an update on the added events. We have Santa Fe Clan, April 29th, Paul McCartney, May 6th and May 8th, Kapil Sharma, June 24th, the BossCon Small Business Festival, June 26th, that's out in the parking lot, Machine Gun Kelly, July 19th, Diljit Dosanjh, July 29th, Unwell September 10th, Wissen E. Yandel, November 20th, and our postponed events, unfortunately, the Maxwell event that was supposed to happen tomorrow has been postponed to the end of the month, April 30th. J Balvin, that was supposed to happen May 1st, has been postponed. A new date has not been specified yet. Los Inquietos del Norte has been postponed to August 27th. And Pearl Jam, those dates have been announced for May 12th and May 13th.
Hey, Ma. How
I
are
also
you?
wanted to let people know about our Read Across America event that happened last week.
Okay.
Annually, each spring, ASM Oakland promotes
Huh?
literacy by selecting
I'm
a
coming in.
school
It's
to
almost
donate over
over.
300 new
Yeah.
books
How you feeling?
to their students. We work with the principal and teachers to identify specific books to purchase for students from kindergarten up to 6th grade. ASM Oakland employees join the event and read out loud to students, often sharing their educational journey. Students then select a free book to take home. This year for Read Across America 2022, we partnered with Ruth's Elementary, a local school in Hayward, and donated 383 new books to the classrooms to help bring awareness to youth literacy. Ruth's Elementary's goal is to help promote self-worth, confidence, and individuality to their students. The foundation put together a short video to present to each of the classrooms, emphasizing the importance of individuality, self-confidence, and diversity. It was a great event. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Commissioner Hallberg has his hand raised.
Not a question, but a comment. I think we're doing a fantastic job, Nicole and her team, in bringing in these new acts. I really appreciate the update. And I was not aware of our efforts to promote literacy and reading. That was very well received. Thank you. But keep up the good work, and let's fill in more dates, and look forward to putting us at a competitive playing field with our mandates and whatnot. But we have a lot to offer, and we're out there bringing in new acts, and I think it's outstanding. Thank you.
Any other commissioners?
I do not see any other commissioners with their hands raised.
Any comments from the public on this item?
At this time, there are no public speakers with their hand raised in the queue.
Well, I just would like to thank Nicole for the work she and her staff are doing. I know I've been in communication with Nicole on 2 matters. The Oakland Roots have been talking with me, and we've been having conversations about how we might be able to accommodate the Roots being able to play out at the on the property. So we're pursuing those discussions with Nicole and her staff in terms of exploring options there. And then the other, because right now the Roots play at Laney College, and Laney College, though a convenient location, doesn't have the necessary capacity that the Roots envision for the attendees and other types of accommodations. The other thing is we've also been talking with the cannabis industry, and they want to put on a major cannabis fair at the Coliseum. We were making headway on that, but then that was kind of suspended for a while because the cannabis industry, particularly in Oakland, is being impacted significantly by criminal activity, to the point of just it's incomprehensible what they're experiencing in Oakland. And so they've had to focus their time and attention on trying to address the criminality that is impacting their industry in Oakland. But hopefully we'll be able to get back to them engaging with Nicole and her staff around putting on a major cannabis fair at the Coliseum. Yeah, we're hoping this year, but we'll see. So those are 2 things I just want to mention to the commissioners and to the public. So is there any other commissioners on item 6B?
There's no one with their hand raised.
Okay. So I believe this is everything for our meeting today.
That is correct.
So our next meeting is May the 20th, right? May 20th.
That is correct.
Unless it is canceled, we'll talk with you all and see all of you virtually on May 20th. And some of you I see in passing out and about anyway. So everybody be safe, take care, and have a good good spring. Those who celebrate Easter, a good Easter. Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And so that meeting was ended by the host, folks. And I want to thank you for watching. And so what I'm going to do is segment or download this video and divide it up into subject segments and release that. That'll happen today. The feral cat issue, you heard it. My concern is people running around the stadium, finding these cats, trying to take them home, getting bit, and then turn around and suing the authority. So there has to be thinking going on regarding how all of this is handled in a social media environment. And again, I stress that, look, Coliseum's in trouble. It's got 13 million in the bank when it should have much more than that. does not have a properly structured development authority, and yet it's control of quite a bit of land. So I thought it was shameful that with all the problems and all the things that we need to do, that issue is focused on by the Coliseum. I mean, I don't care that, okay? The Coliseum sets the agenda for what we talk about. And it hasn't done a good job of setting it. We're in the 21st century. We're at a time when people are making their own media, telling their stories, and presenting a future. And the Coliseum is a development. So I see it as a development company that should be doing that. And it's doing a disservice to the public when it doesn't take on a role that really by law it can do. It can raise billions of dollars to correct the sea level rise problem at the Coliseum, to form a kind of a revenue template for development down there. And yet, we're still the organization that was structured when I was working for Elihu, that originally had, member of the city manager's office, we called it then, and a council member on this Oakland side, and a member of the county board of supervisors and the county manager, okay, or county administrator, which was then Steve Zaline, is now Susan Marinici. And then, of course, Ignacio came in 96, newly minted president of the Oakland City Council, and very brilliantly said that when it was quite clear the Raiders bond issue was going to go south, in other words, that we didn't sell enough PSLs. We need to sell 83 million worth of PSLs. We only sold 56 million. When it was quite clear we were not going to get that $83 million mark, thus triggering that clause in the contract of the bond issue saying that the city and the county had to play 10 million each, 20 million total. All right. Ignacio turned around and said, hey, look, it's our money now. And so completely reconstituted, with the help of Ezra Rapport, the Coliseum JPA to have an organizational structure that included an executive director, was then Ezra for a time, and then Dina McClain for a long time, off and on, who's bond counsel, and a panel that consisted of 2 members of the Oakland City Council, 2 members of the County Board of Supervisors originally, and then it expanded to include 8 seats representing business that got, as you can see, contracted. But the original enabling legislation for the Coliseum JPA called for 20 seats. 20. It's right there in black and white, to be held by business. That has never, ever been activated, folks. For those of you wondering why the public officials seem to have so much control and say, and business is barely at the table. I'm telling you why. Okay. So I'm saying all that to get back to my point. We have a lot of problems. Feral cats should not be our number one news item or media item. Our number one media item and news item should be that we're 220 million in the hole because of a fund balance shift, and how we're going to get out of it, and how we're going to plan for the future. That should be number one. Okay. And I say this again, they're talking about white-owned media. Black-owned media would not focus on that. Putting feral cats in danger of being, scooped up by drunken baseball fans. That's what's going to happen. Someone's going to make a social media game out of it. Watch. So what the authority should do, like that, is establish a policy regarding who is responsible for what with respect to those cats at the facility. This is not a laughing matter. All right. Subscribe to Zenny62, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. That ends this broadcast.